And guess which song was crossed off? Goodbye by Jason Derulo. So this is where it starts to get juicy. Times are changing, lady. Sorry that I don't know how to sweep, but we weren't taught it at school. Well, I was fired then. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Lauren and this is my official first video on this new channel of mine, Lauryn DeMatteis. If you're not already subscribed to my other channel, Lauren Rachel, which is all about Disney, if you have an interest in Disney, make sure to go and check it out. And without further ado, let's get on to my first camp story. As you can tell by the title, this is a bit of a wild one. So many crazy things happened to me during this few weeks. It was so wild. There is another story time about my camp experience which involves me getting to camp and all the stuff before that, which is also pretty wild. So if you do want me to tell that story in the future, please give this video a big thumbs up so that I know that you're enjoying my content and I can make more camp stories. I have so many to tell and I can tell them all on this channel for you guys. First thing I want to mention is I'm not going to mention the names of the camp. This is just because I actually have nothing against them. It was just a bad experience for me. I don't want to put them down or anything like that. It's definitely personal preference. Some people loved it there, like a lot of my friends that I made at the beginning at this camp, they loved it, and it's just one of those things. I have nothing against a lot of the people there and I really don't want to put anything against their name. So I'm not going to mention any names of camps. I'm just going to get straight into it. So after the first crazy story, which I can tell in the future, I eventually arrived at camp and everything seemed great. So the first few days go by, it's counselor orientation. I meet a load of really cool people. I had such a good time, loads of new friends. We did so many things. We swam in the lake, we went on a trip to a small town and we went shopping. We learned so many new skills. We were told everything about the camp and honestly it just sounded amazing. I was so excited for the kids to arrive and I was like, this is just going to be such a good summer. And then a few days go by and obviously because the kids haven't arrived yet, we are being taught a lot of stuff about what we need to know for when the kids arrive, but also we had to do some like general maintenance to make sure that the camp was ready. So one of the days we were sent up to the barn and we had to pick weeds out, and basically I have a fear of horses. I don't actually have a specific reason for this, like I didn't have some type of experience or anything like that. I just really don't like horses. I'm quite scared of most animals. But basically they sent us up to the barn and we were just picking weeds out and I was like, this is just not for me. Before we went up, I asked the woman who asked me to go up and I was like, is there any chance I could do something else, because everyone was kind of on different jobs. I just happened to get assigned to that job and I was like, I could like go and do something else. I just would rather not be up by the horses. And she was like, oh no, just go on, you'll be fine, nothing bad will happen. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. So I went up and I start picking the weeds out. And bear in mind, like, this is probably an overreaction, but I was really scared. The horse kind of jumped up and it kind of like hit on the wall and it neighed really loud. And basically it just really scared me. Like nothing bad actually happened, but we were just on the other side of the wall from where the horses were inside, and it must have like kicked the wall or kicked the floor and it just made a really loud bang and the horse neighed really loud, and I was just like, nah, like I do not want to be part of this. As I say, this is probably an overreaction to most people, but I am just really scared of animals. So I started crying. Like I wasn't like hysterical, but I was just like, I don't want to be here. There's so many jobs I could do. I would do such a better job because I wouldn't be so conscious about the horses being literally right next to me on the other side of this wooden wall. So I went back down and I was like, please let me kind of do a different job. And she was like, oh, of course. She was really nice to me. She's one of the directors and she was just like, yeah, of course, we'll put you on a different task. And that was basically the end of it. And I was like, okay. And that was like the first time that anything kind of went a bit pear-shaped. But after that I was like, do you know what, everybody makes mistakes. She doesn't know me very well at all. She didn't know that I had a fear of animals, even though I kind of told her. And I was like, do you know what, it's fine. So camp carries on and a few days later we get to another issue. So the next thing we are asked to do a few days later is to sweep the floor in one of the studios. Since I was the dance counsellor, it was basically my floor that I was sweeping, that I would be teaching on a lot of the time. So bear in mind that this camp was very outdoorsy, so there was no windows on this kind of building. It was just like holes like open into the air, I don't really know, and the door was just like a sliding door. It was very outsidey, so obviously a lot of dust and like different stuff could come in from outside really easily, so the floor was always a mess. Now I was sweeping the floor. I have learnt since then via my mum that apparently I do sweep the floor wrong, but they got really mad at me and they were like, you're not sweeping the floor right. And I was like, what? And they were like, you don't look happy. And I was like, okay, multiple things here. One, I was the only person in the room. Why do I need to look happy sweeping the floor? I'm not being funny. Obviously when the children are around, I will be looking happy, doing my best to create a really nice atmosphere. But when I'm alone in a room sweeping the floor, I feel no obligation to smile or look happy. And with the whole sweeping the floor thing, okay, apparently I was sweeping the floor wrong, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't mind being told I'm sweeping the floor wrong. This just all sounds so stupid, I know that. It's the way she went about it. She kind of snatched the brush off and she was like, you're not sweeping the floor right. And she just like basically had a go at me, and I was like, if she'd just been like, this is a more efficient way to do it, blah blah blah, I'd have been like, oh okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realise. I'm obviously open to suggestions, this, that and the other, but she was just really rude to me, and I was like, wow, okay. And previously this day, about 5 other people had been crying because she'd shouted at them and basically threatened to fire them all. So it was already kind of a bit wild, and so I was already a little bit scared of her, and I was like, well, this is just crazy. So then I was crying again. Bear in mind, I don't cry at everything. This story sounds like I cry at everything. I don't know what was happening here. I was obviously just a bit upset, the way she spoke to me, and obviously I'd just come away from home, stressful things had already happened. So I was just crying, and then one of the other directors came over and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. I kind of explained it to her and she was like, I don't think she meant it in any type of way, it's just sometimes how people come across, you know. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, again, I just kind of let it go. I was like, you know, these people don't know me yet, it's just kind of a settling in type of process, everything is going to be fine. So again, I carry on with my day, everything's going great. It gets to a few days later, and I think this was either the day before the kids arrived or the day before that, and we did like a trial run. Now I was asked to do like a trial run day of me teaching, so everybody else was kind of being my kids and I was teaching them. So I did 4 consecutive dance classes, and I did them all to the same song, which was Goodbye by Jason Derulo and Nicki Minaj, as far as I'm aware. And everything went well, nobody brought me up on anything, everyone was like, yeah, that was really good, hopefully, you know, things will be the same with the kids, that would be awesome. So I was like, great, I'm off to such a good start, they know that I can kind of do my job and everything is gonna be fine. Now bear in mind, I'd had a word with the head of the performing arts department, so I was like to her, what are kind of the rules on which songs I can use? So I've worked at a dance studio in my local town before, and it was basically, as long as it's not got swearing in or totally inappropriate, you can basically use it, because obviously a lot of songs, especially for hip hop, it's kind of hard to get like a completely appropriate song, you know what songs are going about. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Now they didn't pick me up on Goodbye, so I was like, okay, that kind of set me where I was. I was like, anything kind of around that should be fine, as long as I don't go too crazy, that should be okay. So I carry on with my day and everything's fine. The next few days everything's fine, and then the kids arrive. I was so buzzing for the kids to get there, but basically what happened is it was a really small camp. There was me and another girl who were co-counselors, and we also had a CIT who I think was 16, I think she was 17 actually, and she was helping us out, and we were supposed to have 5 or 6 kids. Now one of them moved to be with her friend. I think this is what happened. One of them moved into a different cabin to be with her friend, and one of them or 2 of them didn't show up. So we were left with 2 kids. Now, I would say in this situation, if I was running things, get a kid from another cabin and put them in with us, or a couple of kids, you know, make it a bit more like a camp atmosphere rather than 2 kids. Now, in my head, it was bad enough that we only had 2 kids. Not only that, one of the children only spoke French. Now obviously that's really nice, she gets an opportunity to learn English, but for the other kids, she had nobody to talk to of her own age. During cabin time, we had to sit in cabins during meals, a lot of activities, you were with your cabin. It just did not seem to be working, and obviously that kind of reflected on me because I was not happy about it, and I was like, something needs to be done about this. I was really hoping that they'd put another kid with us, or they'd just kind of split those 2 up and put one in one cabin and one in another, and we'd be put elsewhere. I was just like, something needs to be done about this because it's not working. And honestly, if these kids are paying probably like $3 or whatever they're paying to come to this camp for a couple of weeks, they should be getting the real experience. Nothing really else happened from that, and then the first day at camp finally arrives, like the first proper full day of teaching, everything going how it's going to go for the rest of the summer. And I was like, right, this is it, this is my time to shine. I'm not just with the same kids all day, I get a rotation of groups, it's just going to be so much fun. So my first hour rolls around and I had a group of 4 teenagers. I would say they were probably 14 or 15, they were all quite old, and I decided to do a dance that I'd already taught at home, to Tiptoe by Jason Derulo. Now, since Goodbye by Jason Derulo, a similar song by the same artist, was fine, I was like, this should be fine. I know the lyrics are inappropriate, I am not denying that, but all I'm saying is they said the last one was fine, or they didn't pull me up in it, so I just assumed this is probably okay. I made sure it was the clean version or whatever. I don't even know if that song swears or anything like that, but that's basically where I was at. I was like, this is fine. So I teach that, the kids really enjoyed it, we had such a good hour, and then we moved on to the next hour, and I think I was on musical with the rest of the performing arts department, so then it was kind of out of my hands. We did that, then we had play, and then I think it was a lunch or something like that, and the head of the performing arts department comes over to me and was like, right, you're basically in trouble for using that song. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she was like, it's totally inappropriate. And I was like, okay. Like, I was honestly, I was quite annoyed, because I was like, you could have pulled me up when I did 4 hours of this a couple of days ago, but no, nothing at all was said. So I just assumed, you know what, it's fine. So then I was like, well, I literally asked you and you said it can't have swearing in and it's got to be not super inappropriate. Now, the song I chose was so similar to the one that I used the other day, and she was like, oh no, that one was fine. And I was like, right, okay, I don't know where the line is, nobody's telling me anything, she's the only person that had spoken to me about it, none of the directors had come to me or anything like that. So I was just like, do you know what, whatever, I won't use it again, I'll skip on to like The Greatest Showman, Disney, and I'll just try and avoid hip-hop. Or, you know, that's what the kids wanted to do, so I just wanted to make it the best experience for them, but I was just gonna have to come up with a new plan. So the day goes by and I was like, whatever, the last period comes around and I did a jazz dance to The Greatest Showman, so I was like, everything's gonna be fine, they can't pull me up on that, that's literally a musical made for children. So then the day goes by, so everything seems fine now, and we'll just get on with it. Again, it was kind of a misunderstanding from everybody, and the head of the performing arts department asked me to write a list of all the music that I kind of planned to use-ish. So I wrote it out. It was probably a list of like 30 or 40 songs that I had planned to use, that I already had choreographed dances to, and I thought probably would be okay. So she comes over to me like probably later that evening, and like most of the songs were crossed off, like you can't use that, can't use that. And guess which song was crossed off? Goodbye by Jason Derulo. What did I use for 4 hours like 3 days ago? You can't now tell me I can't use it. I'm not being funny, but that's just ridiculous. So yeah, I was fuming about that, and I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry, I'll try and use the songs that you've said are okay, or you can give me a list of songs or whatever. And I just kind of went into it thinking, right, this is over now, we've got this list, and I'll just try and use songs that they're happy with. Like, obviously I was willing to go with whatever they wanted, even though I didn't necessarily agree with how they'd gone about it. I was like, do you know what, it's fine. When you go to bed that night, I'd really kind of gotten to know my co-counselor, who was really lovely, and our CIT and our 2 kids. It was like a really stormy night on one of the 2 nights, so everybody had to stay in. We weren't allowed to go out and like chat to other people, so we just had to stay in our bunk and chat. And honestly, it was such a nice time. We learnt, me and my co-counselor learnt some French, because we had the little French girl and she started to learn some English, and it was so nice. And then the next morning rolls around. So this is where it starts to get juicy. So I was just like, I can't even remember what I was doing. I think I was like scraping leaves on the driveway, but I don't know where the kids were. I literally have no idea why this was happening. And I remember kind of seeing one of my friends, Emma, and being like, I don't know why, but I get the feeling I'm in trouble. Actually, I think what happened was I'd already been asked kind of to go for a meeting in the house, but at this point I didn't know that that was a bad thing. I was just like, I just got a feeling. I was like, oh, I really don't think this is gonna be this is gonna end well. So I was like, Emma, like, I think I'm in trouble. And she was like, oh, why? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. So we were like, okay, whatever. So we just carried on doing our jobs, and then I got pulled into the house. Now bear in mind, that is the last time I ever spoke to Emma, but we will get onto that in a minute. So eventually I get taken into the house, and it is the main owner of the camp, so the woman that told me off for sweeping, her mum, and then another one of the directors who was actually really lovely. And they were basically just telling me all the things I'd done wrong, and they were like, this. So the music thing, and the not looking happy while I was sweeping thing, and numerous other things that I hadn't even thought about. Now bear in mind, one of the things they said was like, you don't look happy at meal times. Now bear in mind, we'd only had about 6 meals with the kids, and obviously I was trying my best to look happy, but my resting face is like the grumpiest thing ever. And obviously I'm not doing it on purpose, but I would just be like, and I know I look grumpy, but that's just like how my face rests. Like, obviously I can't hold my face up 24/7. So obviously if there was like a 5-minute gap when I wasn't talking or I was just eating my food, I probably looked really miserable. That's just my face. I'm sorry, I didn't make it that way, but what can I say about that? So loads of stuff comes up, and basically I am not one to stand down. Like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I was like, I'm gonna stand my ground. Like, I literally do not care at this point. Obviously I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was just like, anything that I thought and I needed to like be justified, I would say it, and I would be like, I'm sorry, but this is my side of the argument, and I don't think that you can treat people like this. So many things went on. I wasn't officially fired, but it was basically leave or we'll fire you. So they were like, it's your choice, but we think it would be the best if you were to leave. And at this point I was in tears, because I was like, what happens when I leave? Like, what is gonna happen to me? So eventually I was like, do you know what, like, I tried again and again to kind of like get some common ground, and it just wasn't happening. I was just kind of getting even more upset, even more into like an argument with them, and they just were not listening. Now, I can't blanket term old people, but this woman who was like saying all this stuff, bear in mind, I'd spoke to her in real life maybe once before this, so she obviously had heard all this information through somebody else, and she just would not budge. And I was like, I'm sorry, okay, you might be in charge, but you weren't there, and times are changing, lady. Like, I don't know what's in your mind, but things aren't the way they used to be. All the songs are inappropriate. I don't know what you want me to do about that. Sorry that I don't know how to sweep, but we weren't taught it at school. Sorry, I'm turning into like, so, wow, okay, I'm sorry. But honestly, I was just so annoyed. I didn't say any of these things in this way, by the way. I was keeping it calm-ish and cool and collected, and I was just like, I'm not happy, like, I'm just gonna leave at this point. So they kind of like organized all the things for me to leave. They started ringing up camp leaders, which is the agency I went with, and then when I was on the phone to them a little bit later, they were like, so do you know why you were let go? So I was like, well, I was fired then. So honestly, I don't even know what the official situation was, but I think it wasn't like recorded that I was fired so that I could get a place at another camp. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. So eventually I was still crying at this point, but it was during one of the lessons. Somebody else must have taken my lesson at this point. This meeting went on for such a long time. I don't even know what was happening with all my kids. I was like, I hope somebody's looking after them, because honestly, I don't even know. It was during a lesson, so they were like, please don't go and like create a scene. Nobody needs to know about this right now. They need to still be on their post with their kids. And I was like, that's fair, like, we can't make a disruption to camp. I completely agreed with them on that. So I packed all my stuff up, and then my kids came in, I think, to get a drink, and they were like, what's happening? I was like, oh, nothing, don't worry. I had to basically pass it off as if like I don't even know what was going on. I was literally packing my things, and I was like, wow, okay, don't know what to say about that. So I was like, oh no, everything's fine, I'm just like rearranging or whatever. Obviously not. So they left again. I pack up the rest of my stuff. Now at this point I hadn't told anyone in my family that I'd basically been fired from camp, because I didn't want anyone to worry about what was going to happen to me, and I was like, do you know what, I can handle this myself, everything's going to be fine. So I go to the staff room to collect all my stuff. I literally bought like half of Walmart, so I somehow had to cram it into my case, and I was like, this is very stressful. So I went back into the office to like sign all my paperwork, get my paycheck and all of that, and then eventually they were like, is there anyone you would like to talk to before you leave? It was these two girls, Emma and Sarah, who I'd kind of become particularly close with, and I was like, I would love to be able to at least say bye to them, kind of explain to them what is going on. So they called them on the loudspeaker, I kid you not, about 10 times, and neither of them came. Now I think they actually didn't press the button and they were just like pretending to do it. I don't know why you would do this. It was so nasty of them, if that's the truth, that I couldn't say bye to them, because I probably will now never see them again. Obviously I have them on social media and I can see what they're up to, but I was just like kind of annoyed, and there were so many other people that I would have loved to say bye to, but at the end of the day it wasn't my choice, and like they wouldn't let me say bye to people, and that was basically it. So next thing you know, I'm in a car and I'm getting driven off to kind of a bus station so that I can get a bus into Boston, which was basically the nearest city. We were in Vermont and we were getting driven to Boston, and also that is kind of where I got the flight into. It was just the best place for me to go at that point. So I get dropped off at this random station. The girl leaves me. The girl that drove me, Danny, was so lovely. Like, I was probably crying the whole way, and she was just chatting to me, because obviously it sounds weird, but the one woman and her parents had something against me. Everybody else was just like, what the heck just happened? Like, nobody saw it coming. So this other girl was driving me to the bus station. We were just chatting, and then I put in the group chat basically that I'd left, because I thought, you know, everyone should know, and everyone was so shocked. Everyone was like, I never ever would have seen that coming. Like, there's so many other people that I would have seen that coming to. Not that anybody caused any problems in my eyes, but honestly it was so out of the blue. Even I was shocked, but everybody else was just like, wow. I don't even know what to say about that. I hope everything goes well, blah, blah, blah. So I was like crying the whole way. It was like a 45-minute drive just to get to the bus station. I eventually get to the bus station, I buy my ticket, and I'm on the bus on the way to Boston with no idea what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna be stranded in Boston with my giant suitcase, and I was the most sweaty mess ever. This is when I found my love for Chipotle. Oh, I am screwed. This is the best news ever. Like, honestly, I would rather eat carrots every single day for 10 weeks and go home, and I hate carrots. I'm like, well, we're back at square one, best go get another Chipotle. This is a prank, I've already heard from you. I was very wrong, it wasn't very cool. So I think I'd fixed the handle by this point, so that was pretty good. There was only one bus per week from New York to where I wanted to go. Just drops me off in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, oh my god, I'm home.